Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Learn English with Bible Sparkle. I'm Maya.
And I'm Jake. We are so excited you're here with us today.
Today, we have such a great episode planned for you. We're going to dive into one of the most famous stories from the Bible, the story of David and Goliath from the book of 1 Samuel.
Oh, this is such a good one. It's got action, drama, suspense, everything you could want in a story.
Absolutely. But we're not just going to enjoy the story, we're also going to learn about a really important part of English grammar, adjectives.
Adjectives. These are the words that make our language colorful and descriptive. They help us paint pictures with our words.
Exactly. Today we'll focus on 4 specific adjectives: big, small, strong, and afraid. By the end of this episode, you'll know exactly how to use these words and you'll understand the amazing story of David and Goliath.
So whether you're learning English as a second language, or you're just looking to improve your vocabulary, or maybe you want to learn more about Bible stories, you're in the right place.
Before we jump into the story, Jake, can you remind our listeners what an adjective is?
Sure thing, Maya. An adjective is a describing word. It tells us more about a noun, which is a person, place, or thing. For example, if I say the dog, that's just a dog. But if I say the happy dog, or the brown dog, or the big dog, now you can picture it better, right?
Absolutely. The words happy, brown, and big are all adjectives because they describe the dog. They give us more information.
And in our story today, you're going to hear lots of adjectives that help us understand just how amazing and unusual this story really is.
Okay, are you ready to hear this story?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
All right, I'm going to read some verses from 1 Samuel chapter 17. This is from the New International Version of the Bible. Listen carefully and try to notice the describing words as I read. A champion named Goliath, who was from Gath, came out of the Philistine camp. His height was 6 cubits and a span.
Wait, pause there for a second. 6 cubits and a span? That's about 9 feet tall. For our listeners, that's nearly 3 meters.
Right, that's incredibly tall. An average door in a house is about 7 feet. Goliath was taller than a doorway.
That's mind-blowing. Okay, keep going.
He had a bronze helmet on his head and wore a coat of scale armor of bronze weighing 5,000 shekels. On his legs, he wore bronze greaves, and a bronze javelin was slung on his back. His spear shaft was like a weaver's rod, and its iron point weighed 600 shekels.
So this guy wasn't just tall, he was covered head to toe in heavy armor.
Exactly. Now let me skip ahead a bit to verse 40, where we meet David. Then he took his staff in his hand, chose 5 smooth stones from the stream, put them in the pouch of his shepherd's bag, and, with his sling in his hand, approached the Philistine.
What a contrast. Goliath has all this heavy armor and weapons, and David has rocks and a sling?
5 smooth stones. That's all. No armor, no sword, no helmet. Just a shepherd boy with 5 stones.
I love this story because it shows that size isn't everything. It's about courage, faith, and being clever.
Absolutely. Now let's break down some of the vocabulary in this story.
Okay, so Maya, there are 2 important words we need to explain before we get into our adjectives. The first one is champion.
Right. A champion is someone who fights for a group of people. Usually a champion is the best fighter, the strongest, the most skilled. Goliath was the Philistine champion.
So when the Philistines needed someone to represent them in battle, they sent out their champion, their best warrior. That was Goliath.
Can you think of other ways we use the word champion, Jake?
Sure, in sports we say someone is a champion if they win a competition. Like, she's the swimming champion or he's the chess champion. It means they're the best at what they do.
Perfect. Now, the second word we need to understand is afraid. This is actually one of our focus adjectives today. Jake, what does afraid mean?
Afraid means feeling fear. When you're scared of something, you're afraid of it. In our story, the Bible tells us that the Israelite soldiers were afraid of Goliath.
And honestly, who could blame them? This man was enormous, covered in armor, and had been a warrior his whole life. Meanwhile, these soldiers looked at him and thought, how can we possibly defeat him?
Fear is a natural human emotion. Everyone feels afraid sometimes. The question is, what do you do with that fear?
Exactly. And we're going to see how David handled his fear, or maybe he didn't feel afraid at all because of his faith in God.
That's a great point. Okay, so now that we understand those two words, let's dive into our 4 focus adjectives: big, small, strong, and afraid.
Let's start with the adjective big. In our story, what was big?
Goliath was big. Actually, more than big. He was huge, enormous, giant. But for our beginner English learners, big is a great word to start with.
Right. We can say Goliath was a big man. The word big describes the noun man. It tells us about his size.
And it's not just Goliath that was big. His spear was big, his armor was big, his weapons were big. Everything about him was designed to make people afraid.
Now let's look at the opposite adjective, small. What was small in our story?
David's stones were small. He picked up 5 smooth stones from the stream. They weren't boulders or rocks. They were small stones that could fit in his hand.
Exactly. David used small stones. Here, small is describing the noun stones. It tells us about their size.
And we could also say that David was small compared to Goliath. The Bible tells us David was a young shepherd boy, probably a teenager. Next to a 9-foot-tall giant, he would have looked very small.
Great observation. Now, let's talk about strong. This is another important adjective. What does strong mean?
Strong means having power or force. Someone who is strong can lift heavy things, or fight well, or endure difficult situations.
Goliath was definitely strong. He could carry all that heavy armor. He could fight in battles. He had been a warrior since he was young.
Right. We can say Goliath was strong, or Goliath was a strong warrior. The adjective strong describes Goliath.
But here's an interesting question. Was David strong?
Physically, probably not in the same way as Goliath, but David had a different kind of strength. He had courage, he had faith, he had determination.
I love that. So strength isn't just about muscles. It can be about character, about inner power.
Exactly. And that brings us to our 4th adjective, afraid. We already talked about what this word means, but let's see how it works in a sentence.
The soldiers were afraid. Here, afraid is describing how the soldiers felt. It's telling us about their emotional state. We can also ask questions with this adjective. Are you afraid of spiders? Or was David afraid of Goliath? These adjectives can come in different places in a sentence. Sometimes they come before the noun, like big giant or small stones, but sometimes they come after a verb like is, was, are, or were.
Right. Goliath was big, or the stones were small, or the soldiers were afraid. The adjective comes after the verb in these sentences.
This is such an important grammar pattern in English. You'll use it all the time.
Okay, now comes the fun part. Maya and I are going to compare and contrast David and Goliath using our adjectives.
Comparing means looking at how two things are similar, and contrasting means looking at how they're different.
Let's start with size. Maya, how would you compare their sizes?
I would say Goliath was big and David was small. Or we could say it the opposite way. David was small and Goliath was big.
Perfect. Notice how we use the adjectives to show the difference between them. Now, what about their strength?
That's trickier. Goliath was strong in body. David was strong in faith. We could say Goliath was physically strong, but David was spiritually strong.
I like that. And what about fear? Were they afraid?
The Bible tells us that the Israelite soldiers were afraid of Goliath. They saw his size and his weapons, and they were terrified.
But David wasn't afraid. He told Goliath, "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty."
So we could say the soldiers were afraid, but David was not afraid. Or we could say David was brave.
Oh, there's a new adjective, brave. That's another great describing word. Brave means not feeling fear or facing fear with courage.
Excellent point. Let's practice using these adjectives together. I'll start a sentence and you finish it, Jake.
Okay, I'm ready.
Goliath had a...
Big spear. Goliath had a big spear.
Good. Now your turn. You start a sentence.
Okay. David was very...
brave. David was very brave, or we could also say David was very strong if we're talking about his inner strength.
Exactly. See how flexible these adjectives are? You can use them in so many different ways.
Let's do a few more. The soldiers were...
Afraid. The soldiers were afraid of the giant.
perfect. And David chose...
Small stones. David chose small stones from the stream.
Excellent work. Now, listeners, it's your turn to practice. I'm going to give you some sentences, and I want you to fill in the blank with one of our 4 adjectives: big, small, strong, or afraid.
Okay, here's the first one. Listen carefully. Goliath was very blank.
Take a moment to think. Which adjective fits best? Remember, we're describing Goliath.
The answer is big or strong. Both work. Goliath was very big or Goliath was very strong.
Great. Here's the next one. David picked up blank rocks from the river.
What do you think? What kind of rocks did David use?
The answer is small. David picked up small rocks from the river.
Okay, here's another one. The Israelite army was blank to fight Goliath.
This one is a bit different. Think about how the soldiers felt.
The answer is afraid. The Israelite army was afraid to fight Goliath.
You're doing great. Let's try one more. David used his blank faith to defeat the giant.
Which adjective works here?
The answer is strong. David used his strong faith to defeat the giant.
See how adjectives help us understand the story better? They give us details and help us picture what's happening.
Now, we've talked a lot about the beginning of the story, but some of you might be wondering, what happened next? How did David actually defeat Goliath?
Oh, this is the best part. So David walks out onto the battlefield with just his staff, his sling, and his 5 small stones.
Goliath looks at him and is actually insulted. He says something like, "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?"
Right. Goliath expected a warrior in armor, not a young shepherd boy, but David wasn't intimidated.
David takes one of his smooth stones, puts it in his sling, and swings it around and around to build up speed. Then he releases it.
And the stone hits Goliath right in the forehead, the one part of his body that wasn't protected by armor.
Goliath falls down, and David runs over and uses Goliath's own sword to defeat him completely.
The small stone defeated the big giant. The weak shepherd boy defeated the strong warrior. The story shows us that with faith, courage, and clever thinking, you can overcome obstacles that seem impossible.
It's a story about not judging by appearances, about believing in yourself, and about trusting in something greater than yourself.
And that's why the story has been told for thousands of years. It's inspiring.
So let's bring this into modern life. When might you use these adjectives, big, small, strong, and afraid, in your everyday English?
Oh, all the time. You might say, I live in a small apartment, or my friend has a big car.
You could say, I'm strong enough to carry these boxes, or my coffee isn't strong enough. I need more caffeine.
I know that feeling. And you might say, I'm afraid of heights, or don't be afraid to try new things.
These are such common, useful adjectives. You'll hear them and use them every single day if you're speaking English.
And remember, adjectives make your English more interesting and more precise. Instead of just saying, I saw a dog, you can say, I saw a big, brown, friendly dog. Now your listener can really picture it.
Exactly. The more adjectives you learn, the better you can express yourself.
Wow, Maya, we've covered so much today.
We really have. Let's review quickly. We read the story of David and Goliath from 1 Samuel chapter 17.
We learned 4 important adjectives: big, small, strong, and afraid.
We learned that adjectives describe nouns, and they can come before the noun or after a verb like is or was.
And we practice using these adjectives to compare and contrast David and Goliath.
Now, we want to give you a challenge. We want you to practice using these adjectives this week.
Try to use each of our 4 adjectives at least once in a conversation. If you're learning English, this is great practice.
And if you want to share, you can write a sentence using one of these adjectives and post it wherever you're listening to this podcast. We'd love to see what you come up with.
You could write something like, I was afraid of the test, but I studied hard. Or, my little brother is small but strong.
Get creative with it. The more you practice, the more natural it will become.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Bible Basics for Beginners.
We hope you enjoyed learning about David and Goliath, and we hope you feel more confident using adjectives in English.
If you learned something today, please share this podcast with a friend who's learning English or who loves Bible stories.
And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We have so many more exciting stories and grammar lessons coming up.
Next time, we're going to explore another amazing Bible story, and we'll learn even more English grammar.
Until then, keep practicing your adjectives, keep reading, and keep learning.
Remember, you might feel small, but you can do big things.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Goodbye.
See you next time.